Hi everyone, it's Nadia from YARNutopia. Today we're making this beautiful all year round poncho. This is a tunic style. We are sewing up the sides and making it more of like a shirt, but it is very loose fitted. You can wear this all year round. You can use it in the summertime as a swimsuit cover up. You could use it in the winter as a poncho to be really cozy and warm, and you can use any material you want. So I will get into the supplies we need. I'll get into talking about some frequently asked questions, and then we'll get into making this beautiful piece. So the supplies, we are using a Red Heart Treasures yarn, or treasure yarn. This yarn is absolutely beautiful. It is my favorite yarn I've ever worked with. It is so soft and so I love the color variation. I'm just obsessed with this yarn. So we're using Red Heart Treasure yarn, and this yarn I used 4 full skeins for sure, and then I bought a 5th skein to use for sewing, but I didn't obviously use all of this yarn. This is my 5th skein, and I still have a lot left over. I can maybe make a hat out of this rest of this yarn, but these come in 151 yard balls of yarn, and since I used 4 full skeins, that's a 604 yards for sure, and then I used a little bit of extra on that 5th skein of yarn for sewing. So I bought 5 skeins in total. And as for the crochet hook, I am using a 12mm crochet hook in this project. This is just a wooden hook that I have. You can use a lazy hook, a wooden hook, or a plastic hook that is 12mm. You can go down to a 10mm crochet hook if you want to. This is basically off of measurements, so you can use basically any size hook that you want to use. It is such a simple pattern that you can use measurements to make this. Also, I'm using a scissors and 2 different sized yarn needles. If you want to just use the smaller yarn needle, that's totally cool. But the yarn needles are because I'm going to sew in my ends when I cut my yarn, but then the smaller yarn needle is when we use the beads, which is another supply you're going to need, is wooden beads or any type of beads that you want to add a little bit of embellishment and fringe to the bottom of your poncho here. There are little wooden beads on fringe there. So you can use wooden beads, and then the smaller yarn needle is just to get the yarn through the hole of the bead. So those are all the supplies. It's a very simple pattern. It's a repeat pattern, and what we're going to be doing today is making 2 long panels and then just sewing them up and seaming them up this center here, in the back center there, and then each side is going to be sewn up as well. So measurements, now getting into the frequently asked questions about sizing. This is basically one size fits most, so and you can go off of measurements, so there's really no right or wrong way to do this. You chain as many as you need to, and for the measuring, measure to make this as big as you need it to be. Measure from your navel to your side seam of your shirt that you normally wear. So if you wear a size medium shirt, measure from your navel to the side seam of the shirt that you're wearing. And that is how long of a chain, of a foundation chain that you're going to need to make. So from my navel to my side, it is 12 inches. Okay, so my one panel is going to be 12 inches. Now keep in mind, we are chaining very loosely. This is going to stretch, and that's what you want. So don't measure a stretched out chain that's 12 inches. This is going to be way wider. Okay, so the non-stretched chain, our foundation chain, will be 12 inches, or from your navel to your side seam on your shirt. So let me show you here. It's about 12 inches, not stretched. Okay, and that's about 31 centimeters. Okay, so stretched out, then it will be a looser fit, and stretched out comes to be about, oh my goodness, 17 inches, which is 43 centimeters. So that's how loose it is. It is so stretchy. It is so beautiful. So just keep that in mind when you are making your foundation chain. Now we are, like I said, making 2 panels, and then we're going to sew them together. And this is off of measurements. You can make this as long as you want. I used 2 skeins for this panel and 2 skeins of yarn for that panel. And this measured from this side all the way around to the opposite side, 48 inches long, which is about 126 centimeters. And I measured that off camera before. So 48 inches from this side all the way around to the opposite side is 48 inches long. But from the shoulder down to about here is about 25 inches. And this weight really pulls it down when you're wearing it. It pulls it really down. So it's going to stretch it out. And this actually falls right above my knees. And you can see in the photos that it comes right about to my knees. And that is going to rest on my shoulders. Also, for this middle seam here, you can sew this up however high or low you want this to be, and I show you how to do that. So that is all the measurements, and all of this information will be in the notes section on the blog, on the written pattern for this. And yes, you can get the written pattern. It is so simple to follow. So you can get that on YARNutopia.com. If you don't see it in the links in the description of this video or on the Facebook, you can go to YARNutopia.com, and on the right-hand panel there is a search bar. You can type in all year round poncho or just type poncho and this one will show up. So just check that out. Also, I did want to show you we are sewing this on the sides, so we are going to have an armhole. So that's what that looks like, and there's nice little slit here for a little extra detail. This is so beautiful, and I love the yarn so much. So you can make this for whatever occasion you want, and you can use any yarn you want. You can use cotton, you can use an acrylic, which is what this is, an acrylic wool blend. You can use polyester yarn. This is a size 4 medium worsted weight yarn, so you can basically use any yarn you want for any occasion of the year. Cotton is more popular in the summertime, wool is more popular in the winter time, so you can really do that. Oh, and the specific color of yarn I'm using is floral. I don't know if you saw that already. That's also in the materials section on the website. So floral is the color I'm using, but you can use any colors that you want. So now, before we begin making this, I do want to mention there are links in the description of this video. There's a link to that written pattern on my website, YARNutopia.com. There's a link to the Facebook, the Instagram. Please support me and show your love. And, you know, if you make this or make any crochet project from my patterns, please share your photos, hashtag YARNutopia, so I can see your work on Instagram. Follow me on Snapchat. I will stop chattering. I just have to say a big thank you to my dad, Fuad, Azmat, for taking the time to make this video with us. He's our videographer, editor, and photographer for every single one of our videos here. He does the most work behind this, and it's hard work, so big thank you to him. And now, let's get started and make this beautiful all year round poncho. Alright, let's start out with a slip knot. So put your short end over your long end, then fold that down over the long end, and then pull that through and pull tight. There's your slip knot. You can insert your hook, and we can begin. So let's start out by chaining 21 loosely. So kind of pull this just a little bit like that. Yarn over and pull through. Okay, that's one chain. So yarn over and pull through. That's 2. Here's 3, 4, 5. I won't make you watch me do all 21. So just chain 21 or the width or any odd number that you need to. That's half from your navel to your side. This will be one panel. So chain the amount you need. I'll chain 21 and I'll meet you back up when I have that. Alright, I have my 21 chains, so this is what it should look like. Kind of wide, kind of long. So now what we want to do is single crochet in the second chain from the hook and all the way across this chain. So the loop on your hook does not count as a chain. And what you're going to have to do is kind of pull this not pulling tight, but just kind of stretch this out so you can see your chains, because they kind of look very loopy right now. So we're going to count this first one right here. This is one chain, and then this is the second chain right here, okay? And you can go in any loop, okay? You can go under this loop, or under this loop, or sometimes people like to go under 2 loops like this. So if you want to, you can go in the second chain right here under 2 loops just like that, and then yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Okay, there's a single crochet. Okay, hopping into the next chain right here. Use your other hand to kind of guide through these loops here, going into the next chain, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Okay, next chain is right here. There we go. Go under the 2 loops, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Okay, so we're just single crocheting across this chain. At the end of row 1, you will have 20 single crochets in total. Okay, that's if you chained 21. If you chained more, any number that you chained, you will have 1 less stitch than the original amount you chained. So if you chained 31, you'll have 30 single crochets on row 1. Okay, if you chained, 32, you'll have 31 stitches on row 1. Okay, so just single crochet across this chain. Try not to get too confused with the loops and where they need to go, or where they are, and where your stitches need to go. But once you have the 20 stitches across, I'll meet you up for row 2. Alright, I just single crocheted across this chain, so this is what my piece looks like. Yours might be twisted a little bit, so make sure you untwist it and make sure it's straight and you have your 20 stitches. So you can kind of see the stitches here. Right here, this is my last single crochet I made. So we're going to work in these loops here. You can see the stitches. Okay, so they're kind of big with this bigger hook. So now what we're going to do after row 1, we're going to chain 1 and then turn our work around. So this is our repeat from rows 2, rows 2, this is row 2 right here, to 106. We are going to single crochet across, chain 1, turn the work, and single crochet across, and we're going to work in this very first stitch here because this chain 1 does not count as anything. So we're going to go into this very first stitch here. Okay, we want to go under both loops, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Okay, hop into the next stitch, go in, yarn over, pull through, oopsie, there we go, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Okay, next stitch here, we're just single crocheting across our work now, and that's for rows 2 through 106. Now that will get me the length I want. It will measure from the front right above my knee all the way up over my shoulder and then down my back side down to, again, right above my knee in the back. Okay, so if you want to measure, if you want to make more or less rows for a taller or shorter person, you can make this as long as you want now. I am going to end on row 106. Okay, and I'll show you an easy way to count your rows here once I finish this row. So you don't have to really count your rows. I used 2 full skeins for each panel, and then my 5th panel will be used with for sewing and adding the beads and everything later. But 2 full skeins will get you to row 106. You'll have a little bit of yarn left over, which will be nice, again, for sewing. But I'll show you how to count your rows, because these stitches are quite loopy, a very mesh design that we are working here. So let me finish this row right here is my last stitch. Okay, and if you need to, count across how many stitches you have. Kind of stretch this out. It is going to twist for a little bit, but then once this piece gets longer, it will untwist and not be so cumbersome. So you can see here, if you stretch this like this, you can see these vertical lines like this. This is row 1, okay? Then if you stretch this, you'll see this vertical line here. That's row 2. So you will know that there are 2 rows here. So then when you go up to row 3, you just chain 1, turn your work around. Do not forget this very first stitch right here, single crochet in there, and then just continue on single crocheting across. So this is kind of a mindless project, very simple, very fast working also. So it's nice and easy. But then if you stretch this out, you will see here is rows 1, 2, and stretch this out a little bit, you can see row 3. Okay, so just make your stitches quite loose and airy, and you will see your rows and easy to count when you do get to the point where the length is getting to be quite long. Then you'll know to count your rows and end on the row that you want. I'm going to end on row 106, and then once I finish row 106, I'll meet you back up and we'll crochet around this whole piece. Alright, that took a little while, but I finished row 106 right here. So now I'm going to pull this up just a little bit, remove my hook so I can show you what this piece should look like. Just a very long piece, which actually you could make into a scarf. This is so beautiful, and just have one panel. You could even sew these two ends together, make it an infinity scarf. How fabulous, and it is so soft. I love this yarn. So this is what it should look like, just a long, thin or skinny panel. Okay, so this is going to be folded in half, okay, later, just like this, and this will be 1/2 of our piece. So this will go from the top of our knee up over our shoulder, down our back, and then meet in the back of you behind your knee. Okay, so that is what it looks like. So now we can go on to the very next step of crocheting around this panel. So once you finish row 106, or whatever row that you want this the length to be on this piece, we are going to just continue working. So we are not even going to chain one and turn and just single crochet across. We're just going to single crochet around here. So once you finish row 106 right here, then we're just going to turn this sideways. So we're looking at the long side, okay, the sideways part of this right here. We're going to single crochet along this edge to kind of clean it up and make an edge. So what we're going to do is actually put 2 single crochet in this last stitch. So I already have one right here. Going down this side, I'm going to put another single crochet, and then we're just going to put a single crochet in each row down this side. So go into this little loop right here and make a single crochet. Go down this loop right here, make a single crochet. Basically, wherever your hook fits, wherever there's a big loop or a little like hole kind of looking thing, just make a single crochet into there. Okay, and we're doing that all the way down this side, and then in the corner we're putting 2 single crochets, and then just single crochet along your foundation row, your foundation chain row, and then 2 single crochets in the corner, and then work up the opposite side, the long side, and then we're gonna still single crochet. Actually, I think I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna actually end it right here. Okay, so this is my row 106 right here, and I'm working along this edge right here right now, but I think I'm gonna end right here. Okay, if you want to, you can make full circle and come all the way around along row 106 and end it in this corner. That's really creator's choice. But I think I'm going to end right at the end, right before row 106. And once I finish the other side, the other long end of this little scarf looking thing, I'm going to meet you back up, and then we still have to make another one of these panels, but then once I do that, I'll be able to show you how to sew all this together. Alright, so I'm coming back around here, and like I said, I'm just doing this long side, so I just finished this long side here, okay? And I'm not going to crochet along row 106, but if you want to, you can just go into this stitch right here and make 2 single crochets in there, and then work along this edge here, and then crochet or fasten off in this corner here, but I'm going to fasten off right here. So I'm just going to go into this first single crochet right here, or this next one on row 106, go in, yarn over, pull through, and pull through for a slip stitch. And then to fasten off, I'm going to chain one. I'm going to grab my scissors and cut this yarn, and then continue to pull that all the way through. And then pull that tight so that is secure. And then I'm going to grab my yarn needle right away, and I'm going to yarn my needle with that straggler there. And I'm going to turn this over to the other side. And I'm going to go underneath these stitches that I just made along this long side. I'm going to go underneath here and sew in this end to hide it. Stretch that out and then come back through. Okay, and that is sewn in and hidden, and you can stretch it out, make sure it's all secure, and then I'm going to cut this extra there. So that is one panel. Now what I need you to do is make one, and you can rewind this video if you need to, but it's such a simple pattern that you can just you know, go on and make your own. We just need one more of these. And this is so beautiful. I'm just in awe of this design and the way the colors just turned out naturally. It almost looks like striping here, which is really beautiful. And this would be a lovely scarf you can make. You can even sew these two ends together, make an infinity scarf. But for this pattern today, we want to make 2 of these panels. Okay, so this is how long it is. I just folded it in half. And we need to make another one exactly like this. Okay, so if you need to, like I said, rewind this or follow along with the written pattern, make another one. I already have one made off cam here. I didn't sew in my ends here, but I did finish this. So let me cut my yarn of the second one that I did make. Let me get rid of this scrap. Grab my yarn needle and sew in this end of my second panel. You can make your second panel, then you can come back to this video and we can sew this all up together. I'm going to show you right now how to line these up. Let me just sew in this end real quick here. There we go. Stretch it out. Trim down any extra yarn, and you can do that with all the ends that you have throughout this pattern. Just sew in your ends, and then find the outer edge. Now with finding the outer edge, since you can see here we crocheted along this side, you can see these stitches are actually these ones. You can see they're facing you. Okay, so if I flipped this over, you would see the back of those. See those 2 loops right there? You would see the back of them. So that, you know, is the inside or the wrong side or the back side of your work. And if you turn it this way, you can see the lovely stitches are facing you, and that is the outside of your work, or the right side of your work, or yeah, the outside. So this is what we want facing us, okay? So I'm going to fold these 2 panels in half so they're exactly the same. You make 2 exactly the same panels. Okay, let's line these up. Okay, we're folding them in half, lining them up next to each other. And I'm going to do it sideways because my table is a little shorter here. There we go. So we have the 2 panels like this. Then what we want to do, so this is how it's going to be. We are going to sew about, let me think, I'm going to measure here. Let me grab my measure tape, sorry. Okay, so we want to measure actually our back. I'm going to do this real quick on me. So I'm about 17 inches, so half a 7, well let's do 18 inches to make it even. 9 inches down on the front here. Okay, so these are going to be our shoulders. This is going to sit on our left shoulder, this is going to sit on our right shoulder. We want to measure from this folded side down about 9 inches. You can go 10 inches if you want a deeper V-neck. Okay, so about 9 inches right about here. Okay, and I'm going to put in just a little piece of yarn just to mark that spot And you want to mark it through all your layers. Okay, so I'm marking these 2 layers and these 2 layers. Okay, and those are going to not be sewn. Okay, this area is where your neck or your head is going to come out of, so that you have your shoulders, your head through here. This is your chest area. Okay, so that's the head hole of your poncho. Okay, so now that's marked there. Oopsie, dropped my hook. Okay, so now what we want to do is sew from this end, this little marked stitch here, all the way down to the lower edge, right down here, all the way along this right here. And we want to sew this one to this one, and then flip it over and do this one to this one. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Okay, so let me grab my yarn needle. Here it is. Okay, and then you want to grab your yarn. Okay, same yarn that we used to make this. I'm yarning my needle. This is attached to the ball of yarn, okay? This yarn that's on my needle right here. I'm going to start from the bottom up. It's just going to be easier to line my stitches up. And that marked stitch right over here is actually just there for a guide. You don't have to end it exactly right there, but in that vicinity, okay? So now we are going to take this front edge and this front edge, okay? And we are actually, I'm going to try to fold this over that so the right sides are facing each other. Okay, if you want to, you can kind of get those other 2 layers out of the way. Okay, so this is going to be our front edges. The right sides, or the outside, are facing each other. Okay, and now what we're going to do is line these corners up right here. Okay, and you can see here, we're looking at the back. I kind of flipped this up like this, so the 2 layers are together, sandwiched together, just like this. And you can see we're looking at the back of the stitches. Okay, so this is the wrong side. And we are going to go through just the top loop. Okay, you can see here the whole stitch. We usually go through both loops. Okay, we're just going to go through that top one right there. And then we're only going to go through the top one of this stitch right here. Okay, these are in the corners. Okay, and then we're going to pull a lot of yarn through, just like that. Then we're just going to go to this one right here. We're whip stitching now, so we're going to go through this top loop here and this top loop here. Okay, the reason I'm only going through 1 loop each instead of both loops of the stitch is because I want there to be a pronounced ridge on the outside. Okay, so I'm just pulling. So again, we're always going through this side, 1 loop, and then this side, 1 loop, just like that. And then we're just pulling. Oh, I'm stuck here. There we go. Just pull. Okay, so this part is a little tedious. Again, next stitch right here, next stitch right here. And the stitches are kind of big, so you can kind of see them a little easier. Okay, I'm leaving this strand right here. I'm leaving it because I will be coming back to it and tying a knot later. But I'm just going to come through here and just pull. Okay, now I'm going to do this until I get to those marked stitches that are about 9 inches down from the shoulders, where I showed you earlier where to mark the stitches. I'm gonna sew this up until I get to that point, and then once I get to that point, I'll show you how to fasten this part off, and then we'll sew the back the same way. Alright, so I ended up sewing up 33 stitches up from this corner here. So this is my seam, and you can count up 33 stitches. So actually, that's a good idea to count your stitches, how many you sewed up, and then we can do the same exact thing on the opposite side. So when you are ready to sew this closed or fasten this off, we're going to go underneath a couple of those stitches, okay? Just come back through, keep your finger through that loop, and then come back through that loop just like that. And then just pull it tight, okay? And you can do 1 or 2 of those. I'm going to do another one. So just go through 2 or 3 stitches here, keep your finger in that loop, and then come back through that loop, and then pull tight. Okay, and then what we're going to do is sew this closed, or sew this in this loose end here. I'm just going to sew it underneath a few stitches. Okay, just like I showed you before, just fastening off, sewing it underneath these stitches here, and then coming back through to secure it fully. And then we can trim the rest, stretch it out, make sure it's all completely hidden. Okay, so let's fold this back out here so you can see the center front looks like this. Fabulous. Oh, we did not fasten this part off here, so let me fasten that off too. Let me just cut this yarn short. I'm going to yarn my needle with that loose end and do the same thing on this opposite bottom, or this bottom here. Just go underneath a couple of stitches, keep your finger in the loop, come back through the loop, and pull tight. Okay, again, go through, put your finger in that loop, there we go, come back through, and pull. Okay, and then sew in this end underneath some stitches to hide it completely. There we go. And you can come back through, stretch it out, cut any extra. Careful with your scissors. There we go. Alright, so that is the front. I mean, you can determine later if you want this to be the front or the back. It will probably basically just be reversible. So there's the seam in the center front, okay? This is our V-neck, so this is where our head will come out of, okay? So now flip this whole thing over. Okay, so we want to now sew this up from this bottom corner here all the way up to here. Okay, so we have our hole, our head hole right there. So we're going to do the same exact thing. And you know what? Like I said though, I counted how many stitches I did from the bottom up to here, 33. So I'm just going to sew up 33 stitches on this side as well. So let me grab my yarn needle here and my yarn. Where's my yarn at? Oh, that's a scrap. I have so much yarn over here. Oh, that's a scrap too. There we go. Here's some yarn. Okay, so let's just yarn our needle with that. Okay, and now what we're going to do, since we're looking at the outside of our work, I'm actually going to flip this side over the top of this side. So now I'm looking at the wrong side of this, just like that. Okay, we're sandwiching these together, starting in this bottom corner, working in these back loops, just one loop here, and then this back loop of this one right across the way. Okay, and I'm just going to pull just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to come through this one loop, and then this back loop. Exactly how I did the opposite end, the opposite side or whatever. So just do that, and then once I'm fastened off, I'm going to fasten this off because I showed you how to fasten off already. I'm just going to sew up 33 stitches on this side, and then we will be able to sew up the sides. Alright, so to be honest, I did end up sewing up a little bit more on the back side. As you can see here, I ended up sewing up 45 stitches instead of the front when I did the 33 stitches. So you can see here, actually the front has a lower V than the back. Okay, so you can sew this up however high or low cut you want it to be. Just know that this is going to be the front and then this is going to be the back, and you can sew this neck hole or your head hole as much as you want. That is up to you. That is a creator's choice. You can sew that, try it on, you know, sew it up to where you like, and then try it on and see if it's too low, then, you know, keep sewing up. If it's too high, take some stitches away. And you can really play around with that, and that's kind of what I did. I did try it on, looked in the mirror, see what I liked, and so I did 33 stitches I sewed up in the front, and then 45 stitches up in the back. Okay, so that's what my piece looks like. So now we want to tack down the sides, and I can show you how to do that. So we have an armhole, and I do want a little bit of a slit on this side here. So what I'm actually going to do is, let me grab this here. Okay, so we're going to count. We're going to start in this corner here, line up the stitches. Okay, so this is our first stitch. We're going to count, let's count 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see here, we want to line these up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so at this stitch right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this stitch right here. So these two stitches are even, okay? We're going to skip these stitches here. So let me grab a yarn here and just mark this stitch. Okay, these stitches. So now we're going to sew from this stitch up, lining up our stitches, up until we get to about, let's do like 20, let me count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, about 20 stitches, okay, and this will line up this right here. Okay, so about 20 stitches is how much I'm going to sew up the side. So it's going to be from here to here. This is how much I'm going to sew up, and then we'll have this much for the armhole. Now again, that is creator's choice. That's how much I am going to sew this up, but if you just want a little tiny slit, or if you want to sew up this whole thing, if you don't even want a slit down here at the bottom, if you want to close from the very corner all the way up to where you want your armhole to be, that's totally cool too. You can do whatever you want at this point, but I'm going to start here and sew up to about right here, and we're just going to sew up just how I did this section here. So I'm going to actually grab my yarn and my yarn needle and yarn my needle with that, and I'm going to turn this inside out. Okay, and lining these up here. So this is my marked stitches right here. Okay, so I'm going to go from this back loop to this back loop. If you want to, since this is on the side and nobody's really going to see this, you can go under both loops and both loops like this. Okay, and just pull. Okay, and then I'm going to do both loops now that I've done it. So both loops and pull. So that's 2. Here's 3, 4. So just lining these stitches up and sewing up 20 stitches. Now, like I said though, you can make as many stitches as you want. And there's the bell. So I'm going to do this, and then I will meet you up when we're going to do the other side. Alright, so I just sewed up the 20 stitches here. I did fasten this off up here, but I'll show you. This is exactly how we fastened off on the other piece, or the front and back sides too. Just going through a couple stitches, holding up that loop, and then going through that loop and pulling tight. Okay, and we're doing that a couple times on both ends to sew up and close and fasten off these seams. Okay, and then I'm going to just weave in this end just to hide it, and going back and forth, so make sure it is completely secure, and then cut any extra and stretch it out. Okay, so now we're going to put this all back together here, and you can see on the outside there's that seam. looks lovely. Okay, so now that there's like a little slit here, just like that, and then the armhole is over here. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this around and do the same exact thing. So we did 15 stitches up, so mark your corners here. Let me grab my yarn needle. Okay, so corners, this one lines up with this one. Okay, so we're going to count 15 stitches up and then sew up 20 stitches and leave an armhole. And then once I have all that done, I am going to meet you up for the next step. Alright, so I just sewed up the sides, so this is what it looks like. You can try it on, see how it looks on you. Like I said though, you could, completely sew up from the bottom corner all the way up to the sleeve, or to the armhole if you want to. You can, sew just a little bit less, making it a bigger slit down the side. It's totally up to you, but I like how this looks. So now, if you want to, you can totally be done and have a lovely piece. I would recommend maybe blocking this, kind of just tacking it down on a tabletop on a towel and then pinning it down to the rectangular shape and then just spraying it with water and letting it dry. That's sort of a blocking method that it will keep its shape. It's very nice and flowy and so soft and just so cuddly. So now what we want to do though, just one more embellishment on the bottom here. I want to add some beaded fringe. So you can see here, we're going to add it on this front panel and then this back panel here. So what I need you to do, I'm just going to put this up like this. Okay, and I'm going to have my workspace here. And I'm just going to cut strands of yarn that are between 6 and 8 inches. Okay, like this. And I'm just going to cut a bunch of strands. Okay, just be careful with your scissors. Okay, they're not going to be this long. They are going to be half of this, and then we're going to cut them even more. But we just want to use this to get through the beads. Okay, so grab some beads, cut some yarn. And I don't really know how many I'm going to do. It depends, really, if you want more fringe or less fringe, I guess. I'm going to do it every 2 or 3 stitches though, okay? So grab your strands of yarn. Grab a yarn needle that is small enough to fit through the bead hole, okay? So if you have little tiny wooden beads or any beads, really, glass beads might be a little difficult to work with, but if you have wooden beads or plastic beads, make sure that your yarn needle can fit through the hole, just like that. And then what we're going to do is take one of these strands of yarn. Okay, I'm going to start in this corner, in this front corner here. And we're going to take the yarn and yarn our needle with that. Okay, and then what we're going, actually, you know what we're going to do actually? We're going to fold this in half. Okay, I'm going to yarn my needle with 2 of the strands. Okay, I folded it in half, so then there's a loop on the top here, and these are hanging down, just like that. And then what we're going to do is go from under, okay, I'm going to start in this corner here, going from underneath up into it, just like that. Okay, and just pulling half of this through. Okay, I'm going to remove this from my needle, and I have this loop, okay, and then I'm going to pull these 2 strands through that loop and pull it tight. And that is secure on there. Then what I'm going to do is grab those 2 strands on my needle. Okay, this part can get a little tedious, but that's okay. We'll get through it. We're going to yarn our needle with both of those strands. Okay, and now this is the tricky part. Hopefully these fit through this hole of this little bead. Okay, we're going to go through the bead. And there it goes. Okay, now the bead is on. And now we want to make sure we get the strand of yarn, kind of guide the bead onto the strand of yarn, just like that, or strands of yarn. And where you want your fringe to kind of end, where you want your knot to go, I think I want my fringe to be about this long. This is about 2 inches, okay? And then we're going to take this strand here on the opposite side of the bead and tie a slip knot kind of thing. So round over, okay, cross it over, and then pull that through the back and pull it all through, and then slide this up to the bead as close as you can get it. Okay, and that way the bead won't fall off. And then we're just going to take our scissors and cut that really short, just like that. Beautiful. So there's a fringe. That's kind of how they're all going to look. Okay, so now we're going to do that all as many as we want. So I'm going to skip about 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do this next one here. And I noticed that since we're just going to go through the loops are kind of big. I can just pull this through instead of yarning my needle. That eliminates a step. Okay, we're just going to pull that through just like that. Okay, then we are going to yarn our needle with those strands. Okay, and then we are going to grab another bead, pull them through, and now you can use this other one as a guide. So if you want to kind of pull them together, and that's about right there. Okay, and I'm going to take this off here, tie a little knot. Okay, slide that up closest to the bead as you can get, tie it tight, pull tight, and that's about the same length. And then we're just going to cut that extra strand short, just like that. Okay, and there's 2 already done. How cute. So I'm going to do this all the way across the front and all the way across the back. And once I have all my fringe complete, I am going to meet you up for the final project. Alright, there it is. I just sewed on, or I guess attached all these fringe and beads and everything exactly how I showed you. So I did it all in the front and all along the back as well, just skipping 3 stitches in between. What I ended up doing is what I ended up starting in the corner here, okay, and then working along till I got to the middle here. And then I started in this corner here and worked into the middle here. That way it was even all the way across, and if I ended up with 1 or 2 extra stitches in the middle, it was okay. It didn't really look weird. So that's a little tip if you want to use that. Or you can just go straight across and hopefully it is even for you. But there it is. How lovely. Thank you for watching and learning how to make this beautiful poncho tunic piece. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you did too. So make sure if you make this to share it on Facebook, on Instagram, hashtag YARNutopia. Snap me a little picture on Snapchat. I'm YARNutopia on Snapchat, so make sure you are following me and also snap me your pictures. I want to see them and your little videos of crochet. So there it is. How lovely. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Until next time, happy hooking!